a person has a father who is wealthy, they say, here's a gift, take this palace. MashaAllah, done. But the hereafter is not like that. Your parents cannot give it to you. Your children cannot give it to you. Even the Prophet ﷺ cannot give it to you. You have to earn it. Really have to earn it. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ tells his daughter, Fatima, "O Fatima, do righteous deeds, because I will not save you from Allah in any which way." I just cannot. So when it comes to the hereafter, Allah will hold us accountable. Nobody can gift you something. And so that's what Rabbiah did. So then he says, the Rabbiah says, and then some time passed, then the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَلَا تَتَزَوَّجُ يَا Rabbiah? Don't you want to get married, O Rabbiah? He said, "O Prophet of Allah, if I get married, I'll stop seeing you all the time. And I don't want to do that. Plus, I don't have the financial resources to get married." Then the Prophet ﷺ, a few days later, asked him the same questions. He said, "Don't you want to get married?" And Rabbiah repeated the same answer. Then after the second time, Rabbiah said, "I thought to myself, the Prophet ﷺ knows what's better for me than I know for myself. And so when he asked this question, he's not asking a silly question. If he asks this question, for sure he has something in his mind. So if he asks me this question the third time, I would say yes. If he says, you want to get married, I would say yes." Sure enough, the Prophet ﷺ asked him the question again. He says, "Don't you want to get married, Ya Rabbiah?" He says, "Yes, Prophet of Allah, but how can I do that? Who would marry their daughter to me when I'm completely broke?" He said, "Go to such and such house in Medina. They have a daughter, her name is so and so. Ask them that maybe they marry you their daughter." And he told them, "Go tell them Prophet ﷺ is asking you to marry me, your daughter." So Rabbiah felt very embarrassed, because he knows that he's very broke. But the Prophet ﷺ asked him to go. And he would obey the Prophet ﷺ, anything he says he would do. So he said, he went there with a lot of shyness. He said, "The Prophet ﷺ sent me requesting that you marry me, your daughter." They said, "The Prophet ﷺ sent you?" He said, "Yes." They said, "MashaAllah, welcome." And they brought him in. And they said, "We will never turn down a request from the Prophet ﷺ. And we will never let you go back without confirming this marriage." And so they made the aqd immediately to this young man. Then Rabbiah came to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ said, "What happened?" Rabbiah said, "You sent me to the best people on earth. As soon as I said the Prophet ﷺ is requesting, they said yes. Just immediately." But he said, "So, Prophet of Allah, how do I get the dowry? I have nothing to present to them." So then the Prophet ﷺ, he called on one of the companions. His name is Rabbiah Ibn Ka'ab, from Banu Aslam. Banu Aslam is the larger family or larger tribe from which Rabbiah Ibn Ka'ab comes. So he says, "O Buraida, Rabbiah will be getting married, insha'Allah. So why don't you collect from the people, from your tribe or your clan, enough gold equal to the weight of the pit of a date. just a pit of a date, just a little bit of gold equal to the weight of the pit of a date. So Buraida went and collected this amount and came back, gave it to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ gave it to Rabbiah. He said, go present this as a dowry to the family. And Rabbiah again was embarrassed that it's a small amount for a dowry of a woman at that time. But he went there, and the family said, MashaAllah, this is abundant. This is plentiful. And they accepted the dowry. Then he came back to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, how can I make a walima? The Prophet ﷺ then called on Buraida again. He said, why don't you get from the clan big sheep to be suitable for the walima? So Buraida did. Then he said to him, why don't you go to your mother Aisha and ask her if she has barley or rice, something to cook with it. So he went there, and Aisha gave him everything that she has. So they cooked a walima for Rabbiah Ibn Ka'ab, and he got married. I will pause here for a little bit to try to extract some of the lessons of what happened. Notice that Rabbiah, when he had a chance to ask for dunya, he asked for the hereafter. But what did Allah do to him? Allah gave him the dunya as well. Right? So he was asking for the akhirah, Allah gave him inshallah the akhirah and the dunya. If he was asking only for dunya, he would have gotten only the dunya, he would get none of the akhirah. But he got both. That's an important point. A second point is the Prophet ﷺ, isn't it easier for him that Rabbiah continue to serve him? How is it easier for the Prophet ﷺ to lose such a dedicated servant? It's better for the Prophet ﷺ from a worldly perspective to keep Rabbiah. Why is the Prophet keen for Rabbiah to get married? The Prophet ﷺ is not only thinking about himself, his own interest. He's thinking about the interest of the people around him. How many times do you see that doesn't happen? Where the husband, the only thing he's caring about in different choices inside the house, different decisions, is what he wants. Not what is good for his children. Not what is good for his wife. Or the son doing the opposite. Also the same thing. Or an employer. Maybe you get a very young, bright man. Very sharp. Maybe it's good for that this young man works for you. Then maybe go to college, go get more graduate degrees, be more successful. You can see a lot of potential in this young man or this young woman. What do some employers do? They do the exact opposite. They remove any opportunity. They give a person no chance for advancement. And this breeds resentment. Right? Now here the Prophet ﷺ is showing us by example, how do you put the interest of those under you at a very high priority. Not only did the Prophet ﷺ not have an objection to Rabbiah leaving, no, he was thinking for him. And even when Rabbiah didn't know what was his interest, and he said, no, Prophet of Allah, I'm not ready to get married, Prophet ﷺ kept insisting, because he knows it's good for him. Not only does he think about it, he identified a family that is suitable for Rabbiah. He helped with every stage of this marriage happening. Aisha radiallahu anha helps in every stage. The Prophet ﷺ wants every person in the Muslim community to have the means of livelihood and sustenance and to become, a fully capable citizen. Does not want people to be weak. Actually, later, if you continue with the story, the Prophet ﷺ gave Rabbiah